Hello, my name is Amanda Russ and I'm the wedding consultant for Alex and Ryan. They are a same-sex couple in their mid-30s. They've been together for 12 years. They're both white, from the UK, non-Christian, in fact no religious beliefs whatsoever. They're very, very free-spirited, bohemian ethos, non-traditional in many, many ways. They're avid music fans and festival goers, and in fact they met at Glastonbury Festival, which was also where Alex proposed to Ryan. So it's their special place. They formed a civil partnership in 2009, and the Marriage Act same-sex couples in 2013 allowed same-sex couples to marry in either a civil or religious ceremony, and allowed those who were already in civil partnerships to convert that to a marriage. However, there's a restriction with the legislation in that they cannot marry in an Anglican church, so obviously that has an implication on the choice of venue for their wedding. So the ceremony itself is actually going to be a very quiet, small affair because it's more a formality to them than anything else, because they've already in a civil partnership, so they're not really worried about the actual ceremony. So it's going to be very low key. They're not even going to decorate it. They're having it at Froome Registry Office, which is situated in the library with just a few close family members as witnesses. However, as Marshall states, your wedding party should be the best party you've been to in your entire life, because it is the ending of the most important day you'll ever have. And this was what they stipulated to me when talking around the concept and what they wanted for their wedding. So, for the wedding reception, the theme, obviously, they met at Glastonbury, proposed at Glastonbury, they go there every single year. Without a doubt, it had to be a festival theme wedding. And festival themes are brilliant for the wedding consultant because it allows you tremendous scope. You can choose any theme that you like within the festival theme and apply it to it. You can mix and match. You know, it's very, very creative on the part of the wedding consultant. Colour scheme. Because they want a very relaxed, non-traditional sort of affair, they don't really want a rigid colour scheme. But just so that everything's all, kind of semi-coordinated. Their suits are pastel pink, pastel blue and white, which match their camper van, which is pastel blue and white. And so the centerpieces will also be following that same colour theme, but very sort of subtly done, not really worried too much about it. So a very informal feel for the whole reception. In fact, no dress code for guests whatsoever, and they've even said that guests can come in fancy dress if they want to add to the festival feel. It's fun, with a focus on music and dancing, entertainment, people enjoying themselves rather than the formalities of a traditional wedding, so that sets the scene, very, very non-traditional. Their transport, and there she is, the Volkswagen camper van, it's their own, so that's save them on cost while at the same time incorporating an element of them that's very important to them. This camper van has been to Glastonbury Festival with them every single year, so it seemed only fitting that they would arrive there for their wedding. Again, in the non-traditional sense, where the bride doesn't see the groom before the wedding, there is no bride, so that's not applicable here. So they're going to travel together to the ceremony and then onto the festival site again afterwards. So the reception venue obviously needed to be an outdoor venue, and after looking at a lot of different options, Court Farm in Somerset was selected. It was the nearest farm to Glastonbury Festival site in Somerset that was able to incorporate everything that the clients want. So there's a courtyard, a barn, apple orchard, a walled garden, woodland, duck pond and boutique accommodation for 14 guests, which they'll offer to close family first, and then a large field. So in the barn there's a bar inbuilt, and they're going to self-stock it themselves rather than get a bar in with staff, obviously to save on money there. It's going to be self-service, potentially a little bit risky, but they trust that the people that are going will be able to drink responsibly. There's a stage area there, so on there they're going to have a family member playing acoustic guitar and singing for certain bits in between other things happening, just so there's a constant flow of entertainment as befits a festival. And there'll be open mic as well, which will offer guests the opportunity to actually participate in the day rather than just spectating. And then the big part to really have the festival feel, 3 large teepees situated on the large field site there. So that's the teepees. Inside, included in the hire, they're going to have long tables and, controversially perhaps, no seating plan whatsoever. And then the decor inside, it's going to be very simple. There's not actually a lot that you need to do. The teepees come along with fairy lights and then some flowers inside, so there's not a lot that they want to do. But the decor that they will put in there will be white flowers as the table centerpieces, done DIY, made by a family friend, to match their buttonholes. Then within the teepees there's a stage area, and there's a fire pit and a snug for later on when people have just had enough, so that's going to be laden with blankets so people just sit around, chat, toast marshmallows over the fire pit and get comfy. So the floor plan of the teepee, as you can see, there's a stage area here for the band, and then naturally there needs to be a massive dance floor, and no doubt people will be dancing all around the teepee. That's anticipated. And then the long tables, free seating plans so people can get up, go where they want, really relaxed, informal vibe. The fire pit here, obviously to keep it completely separate and away from, because there will be a few children attending, so obviously we don't want children near the fire pit. And then the snug right at the end, which will be lovely and cosy with the fire. Decorations then, so flowers and fairy lights provided by the teepee company, as I've mentioned. Table centerpieces made by a family member, which will match the groom's suits. Hay bales, obviously, it wouldn't be a festival, a rustic countryside festival without hay bales, and they'll be covered over with blankets. And in fact, the hay bales are provided free of charge by the venue because there's so many farms around that they've got an abundance of them. Festoon lighting in the trees and walkways is going to be hired partly to add to the festival vibe, but also just with safety as a concern, so that people can see where they're going. And obviously it wouldn't be a festival without the really tall festival flags that we associate with that. Entertainment, the most crucial part of any festival, and certainly for this wedding. So music, acoustic will happen in between. Open mic, two sessions, one earlier on in the afternoon, and the people with real musical talent are anticipated to be taking part in that, and then one a little bit later on where the people have no musical talent whatsoever but just want to get involved. I'm sure they'll provide a lot of entertainment there. The Beatles are the favourite band of the couple. Obviously the Beatles couldn't be present on the day, so they've opted for a tribute band instead. And naturally, West Country Farm, festival feel, you've got to have the Wurzels in the evening. And that took quite a bit out of the budget, but it'll certainly be worth it. They're obviously fun-loving, want to incorporate a couple of games into the day, so welly wanging, festival wellies, and space hopper racing, and obviously that's for all ages, so everybody can get involved, and if they're not involved, they'll be sitting at the side laughing at everybody else getting involved. There'll also be a children's teepee and nanny service with games, crafts and face painting, because then the adults, that's going to run for about 6 hours, so the adults can sort of dip in and out, and then they can relax and enjoy their day knowing that the children are looked after and entertained. Wedding munchies, we're big on food on this wedding. So welcome drinks will be bottles of Thatcher's cider, of course, and then there'll be a selection of artisan breads with dips for people to just have a walk around the grounds and get themselves used to where they are. And then there'll be a big barbecue wedding brunch, which is consisting of a host of different things, of different textures. There's fish, there's chicken, there's pork, there's prawns, sausages, red peppers. There's obviously quite a few options for vegetarians in there. Corns on the cob. And then later on, that will be the main meal. And then after the main meal, we're having a hog roast. So it'll be buffet style, very non-traditional. They didn't want a sit-down meal because it's too formal, and that allows people will serve themselves, and then sit down for the speeches afterwards. And alongside it, a big pan paella with vegetarian options in there. Dessert. People, it's anticipated, are going to be so full from this abundance of food that they weren't massively big on the sweet stuff, and they've got a huge wedding cake. They don't want to take it home with them, so it makes sense that serves as dessert. And then there'll be a coffee camper van hired in to arrange a caffeine fix for those people that need it, obviously to fuel the dancing. And then marshmallows will be provided for toasting on the fire pit afterwards. So there's a picture of the wedding cake just to give a feel for you. Obviously 3 tiers incorporated in the festival theme with trees. Accommodation. So the venue sleeps 16 in boutique accommodation, and then they'll be camping out on site for willing guests. So guests are going to be asked to bring a tent, obviously, and fit in with the festival theme. And then details of nearby hotels are given for the people that don't make the cut for the accommodation, but also want to stay over the night and they don't want to camp. So mood board then, just picking out some of the images to give you a feel for the day. Obviously you've seen the camper van. Signage, just so that people know what's going on with the lack of seating plan. The TP's there. Taxi numbers will be arranged for people. Alternative guest book, they're having a guitar where people will sign the guitar because Alex plays the guitar, so it seemed only fitting. Festival finger post signage, we've got the barbecue and the paella. Their wedding stationery, they're theming it obviously based on what you would receive for a wedding, so there's festival tickets and then lanyards with the order of the day and like main sort of facts about the couples, and then along with the welcome drinks, guests will be getting wristbands as well, which will act as a bit of a keepsake and sort of say thank you to them for coming. The happy couple there. Festival flags, just to illustrate what I'm talking about. The Wurzels Beatles tribute. The fire pit, and then portaloos, because the venue don't actually have the facility for toilets, so they've had to be hired in. The barn at night time, and then just some nice little touches, toasty blankets to keep people warm, because obviously an outdoor wedding, it could go either way. And speaking of that, contingency measures have obviously had to be thought about for the rain coming, because as much as the vision of the lovely Sunshine Festival would be wonderful, it is England, so we have to be realistic about it. So guests have been informed in case of weather insert on the lanyards that they received, that they need to bring wellies, they need to bring umbrellas, but there's always going to be somebody that forgets, and so obviously the couple are going to supply additional umbrellas and waterproof ponchos. So just to talk quickly through the order of the day then. At 9 AM the photographer and videographers arrive at the residence where they live together, and they will basically stay with the couple all day. So they'll go to the registry office and then they'll follow them all the way through the day. And the style of photography and videography is going to be photojournalistic, which sort of it documents more sort of candid shots rather than posed pictures, which isn't what they wanted. Then they have the ceremony, a few pictures, and then transported to Court Farm. Meet up with everybody, everybody welcomes them, grazing food, acoustic music, and the free serving bar. And then there'll be the session for open mic, and then it's anticipated that welly wanking and space operating will happen afterwards, but obviously they are weather dependent, and so I've put them there so that if it does lash it down with rain, at least the open mic can just be extended. Then there'll be the barbecue and speeches, followed by the Beatles to get everybody up and rocking. Photo booth opens, which obviously gives an alternative take on photography because the couple get to keep the photos afterwards, and the guests have a great time participating. Open mic again, then hog roast, coffee van opens, and then the main event, the Wurzels, at 8:30. And then 10:30 will be when people sort of start winding down. There'll still be music playing through just through an iPod then, and recording music, and people will sort of be winding down and well, who can say what's going to happen between those times. And then the site needs to be evacuated by 12 o'clock. So the budget is £45,000, which is double the average of a UK wedding, but obviously entertainment costs an awful lot of money, and that's eaten up a lot of it. This is based on 120 guests, and food and drink obviously is a massive part of that. That's an awful lot of people to feed, and it doesn't come cheaply, especially when you're catering all the way through the day. So yeah, the entertainment, as you can see, is a huge part of this budget. The photographer, videographer, I've added an additional 50% based on the average, because it's really up to the couple to choose who they want to photograph them, because it's a very intimate thing really. But it's an industry where you get what you pay for, so I factored in extra for that. And then my fee as a consultant is 15%, which is based on the industry standard, and I wasn't sure whether to do it as a flat fee or as a percentage, but a flat fee doesn't really work because for a bigger budget wedding like this, I would be absolutely ripping myself off, because the larger it is, obviously the more work there is for me to do. So basing it on a percentage allows me to just charge that consistently no matter what the client. And there's my references.